We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yo. Whoa.
Faithful Niner Empire. What's good? You know who it is. It is the Straight Out of the Bay crew. We're back at it again. We have Celts Chronicles to my left. We have Bay Area Baller 18. We also have Amin the Dream in the building. And of course, yours truly, Jay in the Bay. Glad to be back on with you guys. It's been a minute. But Amin the Dream, how are you doing on this glorious post-draft Monday night?
I'm doing good. The Lakers game is also going on right now, so kind of going
Sure
back
you be
and forth.
filling us in on that.
Yeah, I gotta be catching up on that. Make sure we hopefully stay alive for another game. Y'all been watching any of the Warriors playoff games? Any of the Warriors playoff games? All right, y'all didn't make the playoffs. Y'all didn't make it. So yeah. But besides that, I'm doing good.
How you doing, E?
Hey, feeling good. NFL offseason, it's all about getting better. The NFL draft, it's the best way to do it. So I love diving into these prospects, and I can't wait to break them down with you fellas.
Celts Chronicles.
Glad to be back, man. It's good to be back. It's been probably feels like 2 months. It's probably been about a month and a half. So it's good to be back, man. Let's talk some ball. Let's get into it. A lot of things have happened since then. So hey, let's go.
No, absolutely. Always good to talk ball with you guys. I was definitely looking forward to Monday night. Huge shout out to everyone that's in the chat, whether you're watching on Jay in the Bay, Straight Out of the Bay, Amin the Dream, Celts, Bay Area Baller. Feel free to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. And we are glad to be here tonight with you guys and talking about the NFL draft. Well, fellas, the 49ers had 10 draft picks coming into this. They end up only selecting we left with 8 players, I should say. And I would love to know you guys' overall thoughts on the draft. Just a general thought. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Throw in a grade if you like. And then we'll, of course, get into each specific player. And maybe we'll talk some UDFAs. If you guys are down with that at the end of the show, maybe we can talk about that. But let's start off with Amin the Dream. What were your general thoughts about the draft? And we also saw a few trades from the 49ers. Feel free. Let us know your thoughts about the draft, man. General thoughts.
Obviously, the whole speculation on Debo and Ayuk, are they going to get traded? Obviously, they didn't end up getting traded. They didn't end up getting traded. So they're on the team for at least for now, going into next year. I don't think they will end up getting traded. In terms of the draft, I said it backstage, but this might be probably, at least pre-draft, my favorite, draft that the 49ers have had in the Shanahan and Lynch regime. I love the Green pick in the second round. I also like the Puni pick in the third round, which I thought was really good. The Dominic Puni pick, he ranked PFF. He was the second highest in pass block grade. So I was vouching for in the offseason. I remember going back in the group chat with y'all that I want a guy that is good in pass blocking, and that's his strength instead of him just being good as a run blocker. I want someone who's also dominant as a pass blocker, and hopefully he could be that. Obviously, I wasn't necessarily the happiest with the Ricky Pearsall, first round draft pick, as him being a wide receiver in the first round. There was Kool-Aid McKinstry on the board. There was Cooper DeJohn on the board. Not necessarily my favorite pick, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But overall, I wasn't necessarily disappointed. I was definitely happy with the draft, and I think, at least looking at it pre-draft, this was probably one of my favorite drafts. There wasn't any pick looking at it now, once it's all said and done, where I was like, why would you do that, 49ers? Or you drafted a kicker in the third round, or something, or 2 running backs again, Kyle, really? It wasn't anything like that. All the picks, I understood the thought process, and I was pretty satisfied with every pick for the most part. So can't complain.
What say you, baller?
Well, I felt the 49ers theme of this draft was to get experienced players. I mean, they drafted Ricky Pearsall, Renardo Green, Dominic Puni, Garendo, Cowing, Kingston, Bethune. They drafted 7 guys that were fifth-year seniors, right? So they wanted to get experienced guys because, I mean, this team, you guys know, we've been saying it's a ready-made squad that's ready to compete for a Super Bowl. So I think they were eyeing guys that could kind of step in and make an impact potentially this year or next year. But they wanted experienced guys who have played a lot of snaps. They drafted, players who produce. There's a lot of production in these draft picks. So I thought that's what the Niners that was the theme. It was experience. But I'm with the Ricky Pearsall pick. It caught me off guard. I got to be honest. I looked at a lot of mock drafts, in the lead up. I didn't see anyone having Ricky Pearsall in round 1. Like round 2, round 3, I saw it because I do like Pearsall as a player, but first round did feel a little rich. But hey, we'll dive a little deeper into Slick Rick here soon. But hey, they went after experience, fellas.
Experience, man. They also went with speed and dogs. They went with the speed. They went with, and I believe, durability. I don't know. I don't think too many of these guys have had injury issues. I think the running back, Garendo, if I said that right. Yeah, man, just speed. And it also taught me something, the draft. It also, and then once my hopes and dreams of not getting Fuwaga or Latham or someone like that, kind of went out the window, it was easy to not be surprised about anything that was going to happen, to be honest. It's Shanahan's always surprising us. So I've learned that over the years. So I expected it to be honest, probably worse than Slick Rick. I thought it could possibly be someone further down. Some people said it was a reach. Other people had him, higher up on the big board. I overall liked the draft. And it taught me that wide receiver is probably a bigger concern than we think. We've seen what happened with Debo. We see the injuries with Ray being inconsistent. Danny Gray, it doesn't seem like that's Kyle's guy, but see that, and that also taught me you can't just go get one speed guy and think he's going to come in and know all the stuff. So they went and got a cut there. One of these speed guys are going to hit. One of them got to, eventually. So I see the vision and I see why. We seen a couple of games last year when Debo was out, and it's not maybe necessarily the protection of Debo, but just the spark plug. It switches Kyle up to where everything gets out of rhythm. So I think Kyle's bringing in plan A, B, and C and making sure to where when that twig hits, he ain't going flipping over the handlebars when stuff gets rough. So that's what I've seen from the draft. I learned a few things. So
Niner fans that are in the chat right now, feel free to leave your comments. Let us know what you thought about the draft, just your general thoughts. But I thought it's interesting because Shanahan and Lynch, they had the pre-draft meeting with the media a few days prior, and they tell you what you want to hear in certain ways, but for the actual draft, they're telling you what they feel about their squad. And going up against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, what was the narrative about the offense? Oh, we can't separate against the Chiefs corners, and the 49ers didn't really add any offensive free agents of note. It was more defensive oriented. We saw Steve Wilkes got the boot, but the 49ers told you, hey, we need some weapons around Purdy. And that's what they did with the first pick and getting Ricky Pearsall. I was surprised too. Some scouts had him a late first round. Some had him a mid second. But I think he definitely feels a need for the squad. As Kelts alluded to earlier, the Niners added some speed, not only the wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, a running back. All of them ran pretty good 40s. So, and I think it speaks to what Kelts said earlier. The wide receiver position is a big need. I think we're top heavy at that spot. Outside of Debo and Ayuk, we know Debo's time with the Niners. Let's face it, it's numbered. This could be his last year with the squad. We don't know what we're going to do with Ayuk, so it's best to start drafting guys who can fill those roles. So I think this draft was all about surrounding Purdy with more talent on the offensive side of the ball. Now, will that talent contribute year one? That remains to be seen. But I appreciate you guys' thoughts on the draft. Let's see, 49ers breakdown. Also, got to say, what's good? We have Juma Forever in the chat, David McNiner, 49ers breakdown. We have Ahmed, Allow. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Feel free to hit that thumbs up button. Yeah, I'm sure everyone saw that by now. CJ Stroud's reaction to the Pearsall pick got him excited. He said that Pearsall was elite. Absolutely. That definitely made me feel better about the pick when you have your peers talk about how good you are. To me, that's on another level compared to a coach. It just hits differently. But let's get into, the Dream alluded to it earlier. He talked about a few players that are still currently on the roster. And to me, that was the greatest news from draft weekend. There is a lot of chatter, of course, about Ayuk, about Debo possibly getting traded, and they're still with the squad. So I think that, to me, that kind of, for me, it overshadowed the 49ers draft. But just knowing that they're still with the squad, I think that's huge. And it seems like the Niners want to surround Purdy with all the weaponry they can. So hopefully, there's still a possibility that Debo could get traded or Ayuk could get traded later on. But hopefully they stay on with the Niners at least this season. But I got a question for you guys. Since Ayuk was not traded, do you think the chances of him re-signing with the Niners increases, or do you think he could still possibly get traded before the season starts? Let's start off with Kelts. What you think? All right, can't hear you, Kelts. I think you might be on mute.
I don't think anyone's going anywhere, man. I think we're this is going to be that last run with this particular core, and we're going to see if we can get it, man. That's just what I think. So, other than that, anything's possible. You know what I'm saying? If the price is right, but I think 49ers ain't going to just give it up like that. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
What about you, E?
Yeah, I'm happy that, these receivers stayed, although I agree with Kelts, the run may be ending soon. I think particularly with Debo. I do think BA is going to get the extension, but hey, the Niners would not have been a better team, in my opinion, had you traded one of these guys. So yeah. I'm happy they're staying. This team, they're going to make another run at it, and keeping both of those guys gives them the best option.
No, absolutely.
I do not think Slick Rick will be in the doghouse. Just answering that question. I don't think that one's going to happen.
Slick Harlow.
He blocks.
Yeah, Ricky Pearsall ain't gonna be in the doghouse. I mean, you drafted him in the first round. Like, he's not. He's gonna play. Like, now,
Ayuk was drafted in the first round.
Ayuk was drafted in the first round, but I will say that Ayuk, unless I'm mistaken, Ayuk did play in his first year, and then I think the second year. It was in the second year where Ayuk was put in the doghouse, and Kyle. I don't know. Maybe Kyle didn't see enough improvement, or maybe he wasn't blocking well. I don't remember the exact reason, but the first season Ayuk did play, so I do expect Pearsall to play. Now, the second season, if he doesn't,
I don't think he ever had him in the doghouse, but I don't think we ever got the reason why he was.
It seemed like he is his attitude. At least that's what Lynch said. It was his attitude. He didn't. It felt like he didn't want it, or he didn't work hard.
Like that's what they're doing with Gray. They come out always on the phone all the time, and then it was like that was it, and then he gets hurt.
Right. But. Go ahead, finish it. Did you?
My bad, bro.
No worries, bro. But I mean, like, in terms of Ayuk, he's not going anywhere. Like, if there was any opportunity, if there was any chance of him going anywhere, it would be pre-draft. And everybody was hearing about the Niners asking price, and it was too high. But if there was a time, it would be pre-draft. He's definitely not getting traded. He's going to be on this team. Even Debo, I think Debo's probably going to be on this team for this year. And I think they move off of Debo. I wouldn't be surprised if they move off of Debo next season, the season after this one. But Debo and Ayuk are going to be on this team for at least this year. I'm pretty sure.
No, absolutely. Looks like we got someone in the chat. I don't know if you guys can ban them. Someone in the chat. Can you guys ban them? I can't ban them. Do you guys see the comment for Omar?
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got you.
But so yeah, I thought it was great that obviously the Niners did not trade Ayuk or Debo. And I agree with Eric that we would not be a better team next year if we would have got rid of one of those guys. So yeah, I would agree with that. But to me, that was the greatest news from draft weekend, that they're still with the 49ers. Hopefully that continues throughout the duration of the season. So let's get into the most impactful draft pick. Who do you think that will be the most impactful draft pick this season? I guess that would be based on who gets the most snaps, who gets the best opportunities. I'll start it off. Who I think the most impactful draft pick will be this year. You got to think the Niners, they definitely had needs during the draft, but I felt like the 22 starters, I feel like they were pretty much solidified. We know that the Niners feel confident about their offensive line, so I don't think there's going to be anyone who was drafted along the offensive line in the draft that's going to really contribute this year. But we'll see. We'll see what happens in training camp. But I liked round 4, pick 130, Jacob Cowing, the wide receiver out of Arizona. Now, I know this wide receiver room is stacked, but I think he brings an element to this offense that we haven't really seen since Marquise Goodwin. I guess that was Shanahan's first year. He definitely brings a lot of speed, ran the 4.4 and the 40. He was as Eric said earlier, he's another 5-year starter. 3 years at UTEP, 2 years at Arizona. He had 2 seasons of consecutive 1,000 receiving yards. Now, will he be able to get on the field? And that's going to be a huge question mark. Obviously, this receiver room is top heavy, but maybe he can contribute on special teams, kick returner, punt returner. We haven't really had a good one since Ted Ginn. Hopefully he has reliable hands. That'll definitely help him on special teams, but I think Shanahan has to find a way to utilize him. If Danny Gray's not the answer, okay, he's not the answer, but you got to utilize a guy that can obviously, stretch the defense down the field. Maybe you can use him on some screen passes, bubble passes, but just get the ball in his hands and let him go to work. So that's who I have, Jacob Cowing, wide receiver out of Arizona. He's a small guy, 5'8", 168, but
Can I piggyback off you, Jay?
Absolutely.
Because I'm not going to pick Cowing in this exercise, but I did like the pick. And there were a few of these tiny slot receivers in this draft. And to me, Jacob Cowing was the best out of all of them. And I thought the Niners could go that route by taking a smaller, shiftier receiver. And what gave me that notion was when they re-signed Trent Taylor. Okay, when we re-signed Trent Taylor, it made me think, you know what? Okay, Trent, he's decent. We know he's not all that, but that particular type of receiver, I think, would pair really well with Brock Purdy. So now what they did by drafting Jacob Cowing, he gives you that similar element of a slot receiver, right? With Jawan, you got your big slot, but I like having the shorter, quicker slot receiver, give him an option route, and he's going to be tough to cover. So I like that pick. And Jay and fellas, this kid had a ton of production, 5-year senior. He's actually, I found this statistic because I was looking at his stats. He caught 85 balls one year, 90 balls, 80 balls. That's a lot of catches in college. So I'm like, where is this at? All time in receptions. The dude's top 10 all time in D1 receptions. He's top 7 all time in receiving yards. The dude just put up a ton. He was very productive because he knows how to get open. He's a sick route runner. Not only that, when he gets the rock, like you said, Jay, on the screens and stuff, when he gets the rock, he can turn up field and he will juke you. He will make you miss. He's a jitterbug, as I would call it. So just to piggyback off you, Jay, I liked that pick. Jacob Cowing, I could see him getting sprinkled in and making an impact here. You know, he's very experienced, a lot of production from that guy.
And there has to be someone who replaces. I mean, I know Ray didn't have a huge role on the offense, but that's one spot that's open. And I think this draft kind of spoke to the competitiveness that's going to be in that wide receiver room. There's at least 10 guys, I think, on top of my head, that's going to be competing for what? I mean, it's pretty much 3 slots are already, and then there's like 6 or 7 guys who are going to.
I think they kept like 6 last
spots.
year.
Yeah, so it's like 3 spots up, 3 spots available, and it's like 6 or 7 guys competing for that. So this competition brings out the best in athletes. So I think that should be great for the squad. What about you? I mean, the dream, man. Who'd you have? Who do you think is going to be your most impactful draft pick this year?
Easily Renardo Green. I would say that was my pick. I thought y'all were gonna. I thought Jay, you were gonna steal it from me, but
gotta leave some meat on the bone, man.
I mean, you look at the Niners cornerback group right now as it sits, and the 2 solidified starters are Charvarius Ward and De'Amon Lenoir. And De'Amon Lenoir played on the outside, and he could play slot. He played both last season. But if Renardo Green is legit, you could have that camp battle of him and Ambry Thomas, who wins that. But, I mean, as a Niners fan watching Ambry last year and the last couple of seasons, I'm not high on Ambry. None of y'all are high on Ambry. So
I think Ambry slid down the depth chart, though, with some of these signings that the Niners have made, right?
That's also true. They did add some free agents. They did add some free agents.
Yidium. So I think those guys might have already, at least in my mind, they're already above Ambry on the depth chart.
It's the second year in a row for you, baller. Second year in a row.
I mean, I'll put it like this. I don't know if they're above Ambry. We've seen Ambry, right? So we are we don't really like Ambry as much. But because Ambry has been here, I don't know necessarily if they're ahead just yet. Because Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they know Ambry. They know what Ambry can do, right? So I don't necessarily know if they're ahead. Now, in camp, whatever happens, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Ambry ends up getting cut this year, ends up even being on practice squad. That wouldn't surprise me. But to say they're ahead a little bit right now, I feel like that's a little premature. But I would go with Renardo Green. I would let Renardo Green battle it out with the other quarterbacks in camp, and if he does end up being legit, I could definitely see him starting, if not at the beginning of the season, starting middle of the season, near the end of the season. Him being a starter, and you could move De'Amon Lenoir permanently on the inside where he's been really good the last couple of seasons. So yeah, I would probably go with Renardo Green with the most impact. I would say Cowing, I definitely would love to see, but I mean, you look at the receiver room depth chart, it's hard, man. It's really hard. It's really for him to even get playing time. I would love to see it, but you look at Danny Gray, who didn't get playing time. It takes a lot for Kyle Shanahan to trust you to go out there, and for him to put you out there, especially for you to even play, or regardless of start, but just play. It takes Kyle. You have to gain Kyle's trust, and that's a hard thing to do. So I would love to see Cowing out there, but I don't necessarily know if that happens. Even year 1, I don't know if that happens. So, yeah.
No, it's definitely a stretch. I got to say real quick, hot diggity dog. I appreciate that $10 super chat. Blue True says, "What's good, fellas? Thanks for the stream. Gives us an update on the game. Appreciate that super chat, Blue True. Also on Renardo Green, he had a terrific week 1 matchup against some great wide receivers from LSU. I think he only allowed 6 targets, 2 catches, 1 interception, 1 PBU. So yeah, Green seems like the real deal, and we needed another corner, that's for sure, to add to that secondary. What say you, Celts, man? Who do you think will be the most impactful draft pick this season? I think you're on mute again.
Hey, I'm on the same page as Amin. It's the easy one, and I'm just excited, man. I mean, Renardo Green, for Oliver, Oliver was the one guy last year, and then it became the Ambry Thomas, just, but look, man, we got Isaac, man, I don't want to mess his name up again, but it's
Garindo? Is that
Giadome? But I'm just happy about that nickel position, bro, where it's just having Green and Giadome and I know I messed that up, but besides that, hey, all it takes is one injury. Hey, you never want it to happen. But I mean, one injury and maybe not even injury, but that hey, Puni might have a shot, man. I know Feliciano's there, but and Herford, but you just never know. You never know when they get on the practice field. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is, I think, grown a little bit to where he's like, man, I should have known with Brock Purdy. He was the better guy. I think they're still growing and still filling in on exactly how they want to attack things. So it feels like this could be the year where we see guys take steps up more than other years. I've heard him talk about it a little bit more. So, I'll go with Puni just because there's no more meat on the bone.
Whoa. There's plenty of meat on there. Although, I kind of piggybacked on Cowing, but really, I got a different pick. So I haven't even gotten to my guy yet.
Oh, no one said Slick Rick.
And that's where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. I know you like Slick Rick too, Kelts. But Dominic Puni, I'm going to piggyback off you because I do like Puni. When I was watching the tackles, he was a bit further down on the list. The first thing you notice about Puni is how wide his body is. Like this dude's thick. Like he's got a big build. If you're gonna beat him,
bro, that's that.
You're gonna beat him to an edge. Like you got to take the long route. Like it takes a while to try to get around this dude. I mean, he's a wall. He had a 90.4 pass grade per PFF. Just I was really impressed with what I saw. I watched him against Texas, and I thought he did more than just hold up against that Texas formidable front. The guy gave up 0 sacks in 2 years at Kansas,
and he can move. I mean, for how big he is, that boy can move. So I was kind of like, okay, hey, he's a.
So I like that pick too.
Slender, he's not slender like a McGlinchey, and that's why they went for McGlinchey because that was the downside of McGlinchey. He could get kind of ragdolled and thrown around because he was a little slender. So now they found that guy that's just enough athletic enough in Kyle.
You hope they learn their lesson a little bit there with McGlinchey, right? And they're kind of correcting it, going with Banks, the bigger boy. Now you get Dominic Puni, but I'm going with Slick Rick in terms of who's going to have the impact. First round picks feel like they tend to find themselves on the field a little bit more. And this Niners team, we know how stacked it is. I think it's going to be hard for a lot of these other guys to kind of crack the lineup. But Ricky Pearsall, he's going to bring a different element to the slot other than Jawan Jennings, right? And right now, the Niners tendered Jawan, but he hasn't signed that tender yet. So I don't know how sticky things can get. Jawan, I feel like he's going to be back, but right now he hasn't signed it. So that being said, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to find himself on the field because the dude's just an awesome route runner. Like when you're watching his routes, he's got the head fakes and the shoulder fakes. He's got those down. That's the way he likes to separate. He tested crazy at the combine. Like he ran well, with the 4.4 or the 4.41, but he jumped out of the gym. Like the dude's got crazy hops. He also had a lot of production, with Arizona State to Florida. A lot of experience with this guy. He's going to find himself on the field. He's that slot receiver. It did feel like it was a little rich because when I'm thinking slot, in round one, I'm thinking of you're getting a blue chip stud, right? A wide receiver one, at least a wide receiver two is what I have built up in my mind, right? It's the first round. Then you draft Ricky Pearsall, who I liked. Like I watched the film on him before the draft and I liked him, but I was like, oh, he's a good wide receiver 3. He's a good slot wide receiver. So to pick that round one feels a little rich, but I'm not mad at it because I do like the player because he can separate.
Hey, baller.
They're giving him the ball on end arounds and he's making plays. Like he's pretty good after the catch, catches the rock, turns up field. So, but what's up, Amin?
You already know when Kyle Shanahan says in the presser, he reminds me of when they asked him what was your comparison, and Kyle was like, "It reminds me of me. It reminds me of myself." And you're like, "Kyle, of course, Kyle."
That was not what I wanted to hear. Yeah, when somebody asks like your first round pick, who does he remind you of, right? And the reporter was looking for like an NFL comp, right? Like who does he remind you of? And Kyle's
in his own mind.
And the funniest part is he turned to John like, I probably shouldn't say it. And he's like, he reminds me of me. And it's just like,
he was so happy.
What?
He was so happy to say that.
But in all realism, after that, I was kind of thinking of like, okay, who does Pearsall kind of remind you of? And actually, when he was at Arizona State, he was wearing 19, and it looked like Adam Thielen. So I'm gonna say one comp. I would, of course, you go with the white wide receiver, but Adam Thielen or Julian Edelman was what PFF comped him to. So if you get a player like Thielen or a player like Edelman, I think that's worthy of a first round pick.
No, absolutely. I think Juwan Jennings has signed his 1 year tender, I believe.
No, he did. He did. Right. There was I saw an Instagram post of him signing the tender. Yeah, I think he did.
Okay.
When I look on ProTrack, it does say so.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's see. You guys down with going by each draft pick one by one? Just giving our thoughts. Is that cool? Just in case you guys have anything else to add. So
helmet to helmet 49ers podcast had a question real quick.
Oh, sure. Yeah, let's get into it. Hold on, let me pull it up. Let's see. What's good? Helmet to helmet 49ers podcast. He says, will Shanahan actually trust these offensive rookies enough to get them meaningful snaps? I think that trust will have to be built throughout the season, but he at least has to give them an opportunity to get on the field. Maybe I'm excited to see preseason. Maybe we'll see a lot of these guys in preseason. But we have seen some preseason warriors before, and they don't get any run in the regular season. So probably not. I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet that.
The only player I feel like is guaranteed playing time would be Pearsall, right? Like because first rounder, right. I think he's the only one that's guaranteed playing time. Like even a Renardo Green, even if he does ball out in the preseason and in camp, I could still see Kyle Shanahan just remembering last year's playoff game where he started Logan Ryan over Jair Brown, who played really well in the games that he did fill in. Kyle was like, let's start Logan Ryan instead of Jair Brown. Like, I could still imagine, even if Green has a good camp, or even if Puni has a good camp, Kyle Shanahan going with John Feliciano over, or Colton McKivitz over, Puni, or Ambry Thomas, or one of those free agents that we signed over Renardo Green, even if they do ball out in the preseason and have good preseasons and good training camps. Yeah, it's hard to gain Kyle's trust to get on that field. The only one that I would say is guaranteed is Pearsall.
Yeah, you just got to be mentally sharp, man. You got to just be completely on point, and you got to be fully ready, and then you got to weather the storms of injury, and you get a little bit of luck, and you just got to be on point with everything. I feel like you just got to be fully ready, but at the same time, I could see someone in a lower draft spot, like coming up, like a Braden Willis, Latou type thing, even though Latou got hurt, but it seemed like it was almost trending that way, like regardless of the injury. So you just never know. You never know how it's going to pan out. I think it's more up to the players, but it seems like Kyle's leaning toward being more willing. That's just the vibe I'm getting from, organization. So.
Did anyone have anything else to add on Pearsall?
I'll add that I think that Kyle, the fact that he saw Ricky Pearsall run some of the routes that he likes to use in his offense, for example, slant routes and crossing routes, like there were a lot of routes that they used at Florida. I thought that kind of looked comparable to what Kyle likes to scheme up. Because then you look at a player like Xavier Legette, he caught 0 slant passes this past year. 0 slants. And it's like if you know Kyle, like he loves the slant route. So I think even though Legette, he's got the size, he's got the speed, like he's a tantalizing prospect. The fact that Kyle didn't see him catch a slant route one time, I feel like Kyle was just like crossed him off the list. You know what I mean? Not that Legette can't do it, but it's just he didn't see it. So with Pearsall, he ran all the routes. And he's a phenomenal route runner, like I said. So, but I think the fact that Kyle was able to see that, and he's good on slants. He was targeted 11 times on crossing routes, caught all 11. And that's kind of a staple route for Kyle, getting BA. It's BA running across the field on those crossers. And Pearsall, he ran them well.
And what I saw from Pearsall, real quick, about he just seems tough. Like he's a tough receiver. He had that huge one-handed catch against Marshall. Took a huge hit from 2 defenders. So he seems like we'll see if he'll be able to do that at the NFL level. But he's shown the toughness, and I'm excited just to see another playmaker with Purdy, because you got to stop Debo, you got to stop IU, Kittle, CMC, now Jennings, now another guy in Pearsall. So I'm excited just to see what he can do on the field and get in that red and gold.
Real talk. Hey, I'm gonna keep it lit. When we did pick him, once I dove into him a lot, I was like, he just and no offense to Debo, man, but one of my first thoughts was everything that Debo lacks, it feels like he has. And Debo has his strengths. Like you guys have heard me say, he's a spark plug. I mean, he's a beast. He does it his way though. But the hands, the running the routes like Ayuk, we needed another one of those. We only got one Ayuk that's really running the routes like that. And what I said before kind of matched up with what Baller just said as far as the whole route tree. That's what Kyle wants, someone who's sharp, who's got it all locked in. They ain't going to be no false starts or no miscues. There ain't no time. There ain't no time for Kyle Shanahan for that, and obviously the 49ers, we keep coming up short. So he's trying to I like the pick. I really do like the pick after the fact of just looking at it, and especially with Ray and Debo and all that. So I like it.
So everybody, thumbs up or thumbs down on the pick?
Yeah.
What do you guys say? Thumbs up? Everyone's thumbs up? Oh, okay. All right. So that's
the thing, Jay. That's the thing. Jay, I said no. It's not that he has to prove himself, but I said it drafted out when he got drafted. Now, first off, when there are picks, Twitter gives me the notifications, and then Twitter said it was Cooper DeJean, and I was lit. I was like, let's go. We in it. Like, we got Cooper DeJean. Let's go. We hyped. And then Roger comes to the stage and announces Ricky Pearsall, and I'm like, that's not Cooper DeJean. I'm like, all right, fine. You know what? So be it. And then I saw the position. I'm like, he's a receiver. Why we end up drafting a receiver in the first round? Now, watching the tape a little bit, he's a crisp route runner. He seems like he's willing to block. Like, I feel like he fits Shanahan. He'll fit Shanahan's system. Doesn't feel like he has too big of an ego where he wants the ball, where he needs, a bunch of receptions and targets every single game. Like, he seems like the typical player that the 49ers draft. He runs good routes, and it kind of makes you go back and think about the Super Bowl where, Debo was getting locked up. Like, Debo was getting locked up, and as much as we love Debo couldn't beat man coverage, and here's a guy that's a crisp route runner with Brock Purdy and his timing, that they could make some magic together. So I like the pick looking back at it, but at the same time, the reason why I'm still iffy about it is because would I rather have had a Kool-Aid McKinstry or a Jackson Powers Johnson over a Ricky Pearsall? Yeah, I still would have rather had a couple of guys over them, even though we did address Renardo Green. But even my slight issue with Renardo Green is that he is a little bit too handsy at times. He's a little bit aggressive, right? So he is a little bit handsy. So how will that translate to the NFL? Because the NFL does still a lot. Ambry gets called for all the time for the pass interferences and things like that. And when you're a handsy, DB and you're aggressive like that, sometimes you'll get called for pass interferences. So I don't necessarily know how that aggressiveness will translate to the NFL, but I would have loved to have Kool-Aid. I would have loved to have Cooper DeJean. I would have loved to have Jackson Powers Johnson. You look at Peyton Manning and Jeff Saturday, the quarterback to center connection, how much easier it is when you have a center that you trust. I'm not super high on Jake Brendel. I think he's all right, but I would have loved to have a Jackson Powers Johnson or the 2 corners that I mentioned. I felt like they would have served or filled bigger needs than receiver. I don't feel like receiver was a huge need, but looking back at it, I don't hate the pick, and I don't think he would have been there in the second round because you look at the receivers that kept getting taken in the early second, so he probably wouldn't have been there. And the Niners, if they wanted Pearsall, they would have probably had to trade up early second to go out and get him. So I don't hate the pick, but there was a bunch of other guys that I would have much rather had over Ricky Pearsall.
No, I respect it. No, I definitely respect that. So
hey, if we could talk about y'all want to talk about the offensive line? Is that good?
Let's do it.
I just wanted to just chime in just because, that's been one of the biggest things throughout the whole offseason is, hey, upgrade the O-line, free rushers. Is it design? Is it scheme? Is it this? And, you see stats getting thrown out with, Trent Williams, 0 sacks all season. And McKivitz with 9 sacks on the season. One thing that put me at peace this draft was this is what the 49ers want. The 49ers want the line that they have. You know what I'm saying? The way it's constructed, that's what I'm just going off of their actions, because they had every chance in the world to go do something, this year, and they didn't, and basically the last year. So I think it's kind of, and Lynch and Shanahan have talked. One of their philosophies in the draft is wherever they're lacking on offense, Kyle's the X factor. He's the equalizer. He's the guy who's going to pick up the slack for whatever, they've openly talked about that being one of their philosophies. They go heavy on D, and then they kind of, if whatever's lacking on the offense, Kyle's going to pick up the pieces. And I go back to the Super Bowl and look at, the 3rd and 4. I know it's just one play, but it's like the biggest weakness is the right side. You pull a center to the left. So I'm kind of looking at it like, all right, is this Kyle's way of admitting he knows that he's got to sharpen up his system because his offensive line, according to them, is exactly what they want. So it's kind of puts me at peace on what we could have, should have, would have did, because they're telling us straight up, this is what I want. This is how we're rolling. And we want more weapons. The line is good. Maybe Kyle could sharpen up his scheme. That's how I see it. I think he's admitting it. He'll never do it publicly, but he has to know that was a bad call. He's like, damn, hey, I know Burford. 2 guys aren't blocking 4. That's my point. You could have had Jonathan Ogden and you could have had freaking Larry Allen in his prime. Those 2 guys were not blocking 4 guys no matter what. That's on scheme. That's on coaching. And I think Kyle knows that. So he's like, hey, we could run it straight back. I just got to sharpen it. The weapons got to be a little bit better, maybe to get off coverage. And, hey, we could get it done.
Hey, this 49ers offensive line is so bad that we went to the Super Bowl last year. That's how bad it is. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, I'm not going to say they don't care about the offensive line. I'm just going to say that they're okay with just good enough. And that's kind of what it is. Outside of Trent Williams, Banks is good. But outside of that, it's like they're just good enough. But Shanahan is like, hey, we didn't have to spend, except outside of Trent Williams, we didn't have to spend big money on this offensive line. And we got to the Super Bowl. And I'm sure he's thinking, well, if they would have just did their assignment, I would be hosting a Lombardi trophy right now. I think Shanahan is doubling down on this. And I think the draft shows it. Yeah, they're going to draft 2 interior offensive linemen. Probably not going to be able to play tackle. We'll see. But no one expects these guys to beat Banks, to beat Burford, or to beat Feliciano, or to beat what's his name? The guy we signed to a 1-year contract extension on the right side, one of the best right tackles in the NFL. What's his name?
What are you talking about, Parker? Oh, no. You talking about the Silverback?
No. What's his name? The guy who took over from Riglinci. I don't know why his name is escaping me right now. Colton McKivitz. They gave him a 1-year contract extension. Like, that tells you all you need to know. They're okay with having a okay offensive line. They would rather spend money. I was shocked we didn't get an edge with the first pick. Honestly, that's what I thought.
Same here. I thought it was edge. But how many? Hey, I'm curious. I don't want to go back and do the homework and watch every single sack of last year, but I'm curious to how many sacks are because of just like a bad play call or a bad scheme. I'm really curious if there's someone out there who wants to do the homework, go watch every sack of ours last year. I'm curious how much was just one-on-one Colton McKivitz got just straight. I'm sure TJ Watt got him. I'm sure a few guys got him. But the point I'm making, I think some of those are because of scheme. I
don't think Kyle will admit that. That's the thing. He won't have that self-reflection.
He don't even gotta admit it, because when I put the tape on, I've been watching tape for a couple years, and there's been time after time after time I've seen, and I've talked to Baller a while ago about just free rushers or blockers running upfield, blocking no one because the scheme said to. maybe I should go get him, but it says I need to be right here in this gap, in this system, in this what, and it bites him. You're not going to win them all. You know what I'm saying? But I think there is a percentage that shouldn't fall on the weakest side when you're pulling the center to the strength of your team. 1+1, man.
What you got?
He's doing a little too much.
Yeah, man.
But the entire playoffs, you could argue that Brock Purdy had to do more than he normally has to do. He was running around trying to pick up first downs. And I'm sure you could argue he maybe was extending plays, but sometimes the offensive line just wouldn't give enough time, and Brock Purdy had to scramble and he had to make plays. And in the Super Bowl, credit to Spagnuolo, but Spagnuolo limited that. He didn't allow Brock Purdy to go around and pick up first downs and scramble and play backyard football. He had to limit that, and he did a good job of doing that. So how much of it is Kyle Shanahan's scheme, which I think in the Super Bowl it was Kyle Shanahan and his scheme, but it definitely helps when you have guys in your offensive line that can protect for you a little bit better. And as much as we want to sit up here and say we're okay with the offensive line, like I think it's good enough, sure. But you look at what the Rams did, for example, in the draft. They ended up drafting a D tackle and a DN in the first round. Like teams are improving their pass rush, and if you're gonna sit up here and just say, it was our scheme, like eventually, all I'm gonna say it's definitely not gonna be as easy. I'll just put it like that. Especially when the other teams in the division are obviously improving their pass rush, their defense. Like going into last year and going into this year, I would say pretty much every team in the NFC I could argue has gotten better in one position or another, and are a more like not necessarily better team, but they've definitely improved, right? Especially in certain positions. Every team I could argue that, and they've gotten better than they were last year. Whereas the Niners, like they're still a pretty darn good team, but at the same time, that offensive line was a position of need. And I love the Puni pick. But at the same time, I don't even know if he gets an opportunity to start or even play this year, right? So, like I said in the first round, I would have loved to have a Jackson Powers Johnson on the team or someone else, but at least the way that Kyle Shanahan did the draft and he approached the draft with the Ricky Pearsall pick, it seems like Kyle Shanahan is okay with, it was the scheme, and that's why, we ended up losing the Super Bowl. But I think the offensive line is still a question mark going into next season. Not to mention real quick, the fact that
give it to us.
Not the fact that real quick, last year was a healthy season for the most part, even though Trent missed games. If this year going into next season, your offensive line isn't healthy, you have guys that get banged up early on in the season, like a McKivitz, like Aaron Banks who got hurt, even a Trent Williams who's only getting older. Who do you have behind those guys? Like I don't trust Nick Zakelj or Jalen Moore to come up in there and to start and to be serviceable. Like I don't trust those guys. So who do you have behind Aaron Banks or McKivitz or Trent Williams, who already missed a couple of games last year? Those guys missed games last year. They're getting older.
I think John Lynch mentioned Moore. I think that was one of the first reserves he mentioned. And I can't remember when I was listening to him, but I know it was after the draft. So within the past couple of days. So, but he mentioned Moore, and he seemed to really, really still like Moore. So it's like when I'm talking in this specific show, I'm more kind of like, it's not even about how I feel. It's like what they're telling me. Like, what am I like? I'm listening to them and I'm like, all right, this is what it seems like they're saying. It's like, I'm over here like, damn it, man, you should have got Fuaga. You had a golden opportunity, but I'm hella happy we got Ayuk. I wish we could have found a way to trade up. And hey, I love offensive line. I wanted some monsters. I still wish I could go back and get Dawan Jones, but all those things ain't going to happen. And John Lynch, I think they're happy with even the Parker that they got from the Raiders. I think they're happy with their second unit. I truly believe that they think McKivitz is better and that Brendel is better and Burford and Feliciano than any of us, I think. And like Jay said, it got us to the Super Bowl, man. But I think there are a lot of ways to reduce just free freaking rushers. I know you need a little bit more time, but like, sometimes our blockers are blocking no one. It's like, hey, let's get a little vanilla and just hat on a hat, let's see how that works sometimes.
Shouldn't a player be able to make that decision, like when the game is played? Like, obviously, you're supposed to get this person. Now, if this person drops back in coverage, well, you need to get the next closest guy to you. Like
sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, they should be able to think on their feet. I'm sure they do in all types of situations, but Shanahan can't prevent everything. But I just wanted to let Amin know it's about D and D. That's draft and development. This front office believes so much in Chris Forrester. He can coach these guys up. That's what Shanahan believes. I'm not saying y'all should believe it or I believe it, but that's what Shanahan feels. And that's why we don't have any big free agent signings along the offensive line. I mean, Shanahan did do it. We signed a center, brought in Trent Williams, so he did, and we brought in McGlinchey, first round pick, so he has made investments in the O-line. It hasn't really worked out outside of Trent. So maybe he's like, well, we'll just go the draft route and we'll develop these guys and they'll be good enough. I think that's not saying it's right that what he's doing, but that's just what he's doing.
Yeah, Shanahan definitely did not want to build how could I say this? A San Antonio Spurs back in the day with Duncan and Parker and Hey, they were a dynasty, but it was kind of boring. Shanahan ain't down with he doesn't want, I don't think he would want to be known for the best offensive line and we won a bowl, but we won it like this or something. Kyle has his way, man. He wants it to look a certain way and all that. So it is what it is.
Okay. Second round pick, Renardo Green. Chat, let me know as well. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Fellas, Lakers just took an L, fellas.
Whoa, that's
Jamal
shocking.
Murray, another game winner. Jamal Murray, like Jamal Murray did it to us again.
It's just not meant to be.
See, that's the thing. Like that, like I expected us to lose this series, but we've been dominating this series. Like you've seen the stat of like the minutes of like we've been leading the series. Like we've been up like 100 minutes over like 40. We've been doing good in this series, but we still taking L's. Don't give me that look. Your team didn't make the playoffs, Paul. Your team did not make the playoffs.
No, but we still got Curry for a few.
Neither one of our teams won the championship, and that's what it's all about.
That's true. I didn't take my team won the championship. That's true. But we've been up in like we've been up by double digits. Game one,
y'all
game
won
two.
That in-season tournament though.
Freak the in-season tournament, baller. Nobody get no damn about no damn in-season tournament, baller.
Hey, was it the refs' fault? Did the refs do it tonight? Is that what?
It's all good as long as we didn't get swept. As long as we didn't get swept, I'm cool. We didn't get swept.
Isn't LeBron and Bronny? They're coming to the Warriors. LeBron and Bronny.
Wow.
Okay, I've heard this discussion, but let's be real. Like, if y'all want to, if Curry wants to win a chip, he might as well come to the Lakers. Like, if Curry wants to win a chip,
coming back, it's gonna be KD, LeBron, Dre. They're gonna be on the banana boat together.
Prime Sports Media.
Let's go, baby.
Hey, appreciate that, Prime Sports. Thanks for tuning in. What's up, Jay?
Go ahead. I was just gonna say. I think. I'll go ahead. My bad. Go ahead.
Well, I was about to hit on Renardo.
Yeah,
Green.
Let's go. Yeah,
I was about to hit on Renardo Green because when I was, pre-draft, I like to try to evaluate some players, right? I went down the cornerback list, and Renardo was a ways down. But when I got to him, man, I had to put a star by his name. That's how you know I like you. If you got like the Niners got their gold helmet players, like Baller's got the star. If you got the star next to your name, he's like, hey, you're Baller approved. Renardo Green got that. Sticky man coverage. And I saw that on film, and it matched up with what PFF was saying. PFF gave him a 90 grade in man coverage. Like you said earlier, Jay, he was awesome versus LSU. Held Malik Neighbors, who everyone loves, to 2 catches in the game. This is another fifth-year senior. He's played some safety, but what I like about that is he's a willing tackler. Like, he's a good tackler. And what I wrote down is his competitiveness oozes through the screen. Like, this dude is ultra competitive. Like, if he's guarding you, he does not want to let you catch that ball. Now, the detriment to that is he can be handsy. Like, he doesn't want you to catch it so bad that he kind of grabs a little bit, latches on, and he's physical, but sometimes it shows up. Al Sacco tweeted out a stat. I'm going to steal it. 11 penalties in the last 2 years, including 4 pass interferences in 2023. So while I do like the pick, he is sticky in coverage, and he's a man guy. So now it makes me think, okay, Are we going to be switching, playing a little bit more man? Is that what they're looking at in the future? But he's sticky. He's ultra competitive. He will tackle, but he's a bit handsy.
When I heard him talk for the first time, because typically I'm all over these guys, man. I'm watching the interviews. I'm trying to peep it all, their character and all that. But I just heard him just briefly one time talk and just instantly hit me. I was like, man, he reminds me of a young Jimmy Ward. Like just his swag, his confidence. Like I could see him when he gets comfortable in a couple years. Like, nah, I want them to feel it. They're gonna feel it every day, every damn day. Like, he just seems like that kind of a dog. And it starts with the mentality, man. It starts with the intangibles. It always starts with what's upstairs. And when you get a guy that's wired in, the 49er way when it comes to defense, and the way that John Lynch views it is he wants you to go through the tackle. He doesn't want you to, he wants you to just all gas, no brakes, because if you don't get him, then the guy behind's going to get him. So you go full throttle. And that's what it seems like him. And I know we're going to get to the other guy, and I don't want to mess his name up. So I'm going to listen to Baller say it first.
Hey, Andrew Hayes Stoker and Daniel Bullocks. Those are the secondary coaches of the Niners. So they need to coach out of them. You got to be aggressive, but basically not where the referee will see it, because the Chiefs were really handsy on us and they didn't call squat in the Super Bowl. But that's what coaching is all about. You got to coach that out of them. It's like kind of like what Steve Kerr says to Draymond, right? Like, we need you to be aggressive, but you got to, you have to know the line and don't cross it. Draymond, obviously we know he can't handle that. He crosses that line multiple times, but you don't want someone to not be aggressive, So, but I like the pick. I love it. Outside of Mooney and Demo, I mean, this secondary it's wide open. I mean, as far as corners, we'll probably keep at least 5. So, there's multiple positions up for grabs, and I can't wait to see, because Luder will be back. I know he was banged up last year. He'll be back, hopefully healthy. Womack hasn't really made the most out of his opportunity. Ambry's hanging on by a thread. And also the free agents we signed, Rocky Sin. I don't want to mess his name up, but you guys know who I'm talking about, the other vet corner that we signed. So I'm excited that we have some young talent in the secondary, and it's going to be exciting to watch how that final roster countdown comes down. Got to say what's good to G12. Appreciate you tuning in to the stream. Hot diggity dog. Appreciate that, man. Let's get to the other pick, unless someone else had any closing thoughts, or Mr. Renardo Green. No? Okay. The interior offensive line, Dom Puni. Did anyone have anything to add on Dom?
No? I'll just reiterate that I like the pick. He's got a wide body, awesome in pass protection. He played some guard, but this past year he was at tackle. But when I was watching him, me and the 49ers, I feel like we were on the same page with Puni, because when I was watching him, I'm thinking, man, this dude could be a really good guard. And I think that's where he's headed. And hey, year one feels like it might be a stretch for him to be a starter year one. Again, this Niners team sat Aaron Banks his whole rookie year. So I could see something similar like that with Puni. But next year, man, like one thing I wrote down when I was watching him is he could play somewhere for me on this line. Like, I don't know, is it left guard, is it right guard? He was playing tackle, but I want him somewhere on my line, because he's a darn good football player.
He also took some snaps in the Senior Bowl as well. Dom did, and as you mentioned, he played both tackle spots and left guard. So it's good to see the versatility.
Center as well, I think, right?
Yeah, yep. He plays centers in the Senior Bowl. In the Senior Bowl practices, he took some snaps at center. So I imagine he won't transition to tackle, probably because his arm length. I was listening to Kruger, and he was saying if you don't have 34-inch arms, you most likely won't play tackle in the NFL. And I think he's a few inches short of that. So should we get into now? This brother's name is, I'm gonna have trouble with this, because his name looks like it's pronounced Malik, but I think it's pronounced Malik. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard several people say his name, Malik. What I noticed from him, he reminded me of Peanut Tillman, the brother who used to punch the balls out, get those fumbles. That's what I noticed in his highlight. And we drafted him, of course, in the 4th round, safety out of Wake Forest. He had a solid 40 time, 4.54. He led Wake Forest in tackles this past year. So I think this is a solid pick. Malik. He's a thumper. And that's definitely what we need on the squad. There's no more Tayshaun Gibson. Huff, hey, who knows if he'll be back in time for training camp. So, hey, he may get some snaps. I'm excited to see what he can do in the preseason if he doesn't get meaningful regular season snaps. Anything else stand out about him?
I'm still watching more tape on the Wake Forest product, Malik Mustafa. But hey, as soon as you put on the film, the thing that jumps out at you is how fast this guy plays. This dude plays fast, and how he attacks the run with just ferociousness, such ferocity. Like, he gets downhill in a hurry. Like, he's screaming at these running backs who are toting the rock. A lot of times he's hitting them in the backfield. Like, this dude, he plays the game fast. So I like what I saw from him. The ball production, I need to see him more in coverage, because I haven't seen enough of him in coverage. But off the bat, the dude is awesome playing the run. And you said he ran a 4.5, whatever. He plays even faster on the field.
And baller, not to mention, like, I know it's not in terms of on the football field, but he grew up a 49ers fan also. So, I mean, like, just
Always
think about that. Yeah, always a plus. Always a plus. I mean, think about it. You're a young kid rooting for the Niners, and then you end up getting drafted by them. Like,
and Bob Sanders was the guy who came to mind when I was watching him, because he is short. I think he's only 5'10", but this dude's thick. Like, he's built, dude. This dude spends a lot of time in the weight room. Right. Mustafa, like, yeah,
that's perfect.
You can see it, but just how fast he plays and just kind of his build, it was looking like Bob Sanders.
Dude, when I first watched him, it reminded me of Debo a little bit. When you just like take the number off and just look at the way a guy's running, and kind of, I was like, man, I mean, it's a little bit different, but just I was like, that's a Debo version on defense, kind of. But just that, just that hard nosed. It's almost like you can feel the weight of some players, even if they're smaller. You can fit. It's almost like you can feel the toughness, or it feels heavier. Even if they are running fast, some guys who are lighter, it's hard to really explain. But that's the first thing I thought of was Debo when I seen him. But I love Bob Sanders. And who did you bring up, Jay? You brought up another
Peanut Tillman.
Peanut Tillman.
Yeah, he was punching the ball out on his highlight reel. So
yeah.
That's good to see. That's what you want to see on defense. So
love it. And we got another dog, man. That's what it did. That's what it was. On defense, let's get dogs. On offense, let's get speed. That seemed like the theme. And hey, man, I hope we get to see him thump with no penalties.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Sean Tuber is in the building. What's good? Appreciate you and everyone else who's in the stream right now. If you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to hit that thumbs up button, whatever channel you're watching. And feel free to, lend your thoughts about our draft picks as well. Next guy, Isaac. How do you pronounce his name? Last name, Kels?
Garindo. That's right. Yeah.
One interesting thing about him, 6 even, 221, running back from Louisville. He wasn't super productive in college. He spent the first 4 years of his collegiate career at Wisconsin. I think Jonathan Taylor was ahead of him. Also, another running back. I think he plays for the Jets now, and he was drafted this year too. But his name is escaping me. But he didn't get much PT at Wisconsin, but he had a pretty good year with Louisville. Led the team with 810 rushing yards. He has great speed. I think I heard a crazy stat. 6 feet 221. The last guy who weighed over 220 pounds that had a faster 40-yard dash than he did was DK Metcalf. So that's a pretty good comparison. I don't know if he's shifty or if it's just straight line speed. I guess we'll see. But hey, the Niners drafted a running back. It's not in the third round. We've had success drafting running backs past the third round, so we'll see what he can do. Anything else?
I will say though, not necessarily stands out about Isaac, but then where does JP Mason fit on the depth chart with this? Because like I love me some JP Mason, but
Kyle don't.
I mean, that's the thing though. Kyle, like, I could see JP Mason on the practice squad, maybe, but
yeah,
it's tough, man.
I mean, Elijah Mitchell, there's no guarantee for Mitchell.
I honestly would rather, even though this might be a hot take, I'd rather have JP over Elijah Mitchell. That's just
that's what I'm trying to say. I would trade Eli for a 6 or 7 round pick.
Yeah,
get something like make some room for JP Mason, but also make some room for Garendo. Because I got to be honest, I didn't pre-draft. I didn't hit the running back position because shame on me. I didn't think we were going to draft one because I like McCaffrey.
Baller, you didn't think they were going to draft one? They draft one every year. Baller,
I know. I thought they were going to be cool with the guys we got. Obviously, I was wrong, but I went and I watched the tape on Garendo, and what I'll say is this dude looks really good running under center. Louisville was one of these rare colleges that was running some under center offense, right? So much of college now is shotgun, spread, but it was refreshing to see Louisville go under center, have the quarterback turn his back to the defense, hand the ball off to Garendo. And I thought when they did that, I thought Garendo was running his best under center. We know Kyle. Well, I feel like Kyle's kind of been maybe leaning a little bit more shotgun. I felt like under center took a little bit of dip, but year in and year out, he's one of the most high usage coordinators or offensive play callers that calls under center plays. So I thought Garendo looked good in that scheme. The 4.33 speed shows up. The dude's got a thick build. Larry's. I like Larry. He's got some funny ideas sometimes, but he wants to turn Garendo into a fullback, kind of as the juice replacement. You got a 4.3 fullback. That does sound kind of intriguing. But what I'll say is Garendo, he can catch it. He's not the shakiest. He doesn't have the most wiggle. He is kind of a straight line guy. But hey, as a one cut, right, in that one cut offense, when you're running under center, really it's about making that one cut. Stick your foot in the ground, get upfield. I think he can do that.
But Baller, in terms of the whole Mitchell and Mason thing, I would trade Mitchell only because he gets hurt all the time. Also, he's really injury prone. So, I wouldn't mind moving off of Mitchell. But the thing about Garendo is, you look at how much Shanahan utilizes Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if Garendo even gets an opportunity to play. JP Mason didn't get an opportunity to play, and he's been on the team last year for at least multiple seasons. So I love the idea of Garendo, but at the same time, I don't know if Garendo's gonna get any playing time, right? I don't expect him to get playing time, right? But I don't get why we draft running backs year after year after year when most of the time, at least in the past, they've either gotten cut or they've gotten released by the 49ers. And in this case with Garendo, even if you get rid of Elijah Mitchell hypothetically before the season starts, at least looking back at last year, when Mitchell was hurt, you utilized Christian McCaffrey so much to the point where you sometimes don't even some of your RB2 doesn't even get touches in the game. And I was pounding I don't know if I was pounding the table for it last year, but I think JP Mason would be a great third down back for us on third and short. He's a power back on third and short, but Kyle Shanahan still would heavily rely on Christian McCaffrey for whatever situation it would be. And I think part of that is McCaffrey wanting to be out there every single snap. But if you're not going to use your other running backs, what's the point of drafting these guys? I get it. I get Garendo and his talent, and I get that. He's, the speed and everything. But at least last year in particular, you've shown that you only use one running back heavily in Christian McCaffrey, and your other running backs Christian McCaffrey kind of overshadows your other 2 or 3 guys that you have on the roster.
You got to have at least 3 to 4 backs. I would say this year is probably the first year, right? No, through Shanahan's tenure, I think he's had a different leading rusher every year. I believe Breida, Mostert, I mean, I think this will be the consecutive season where he's had the leading rusher. We expect that to be CMC. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we need to give other running backs more burn. Limit CMC. But I don't know. I guess Shanahan just gets to. I just got to give him the ball. No one else can get it. And that's just how he coaches.
He gets
for whatever
caught up
reason.
in the moment, but also McCaffrey doesn't want to come off the field. That's the other
Right,
half.
right.
Of it.
That was the last year was supposed to be that legacy year. Everybody was all in. They wanted to have that.
But then in the Super Bowl you don't do that, Kels. In the Super Bowl you don't use Christian McCaffrey. So it's like the entire year you decide to use Christian McCaffrey, and then in the Super Bowl you're like, Christian,
Then
we're
it's like let's force Debo the ball.
yeah,
because
like, it doesn't make sense.
Kyle decided to go trickery because he was probably still hungry. That's what he chose. I mean, look at the 3rd and 4 play just by itself. And then you guys just alluded to the biggest point. Let's go heavy with Debo. That whole Super Bowl was like trickery. Like, I mean, he even had freaking Jawan Jennings, it worked, throw a touchdown pass. But my point is, you pull the center to the left and take away from the weakest part of your field, the right side of the line. I'll keep going back to it because that's trickery. Hey, we're going to run a fake sweep toss or a fake jet sweep to Christian to the left. Those are all our strong players. Psych. Oh shit! Here comes a blitz. Game over. Like
I expect nothing less from a
trickery.
head coach.
That's
I expect nothing less. Real quick, I expect nothing less from a head coach who just compared himself to a collegiate receiver, our 1st round pick. I expect nothing less from Kyle.
Part of Kyle's game will always be confusion, trickery, just like, and it works. It works a lot, man. And it's just, I'm learning. Hey, this is who he is. I can't do nothing about it. I wish I could. I'm frustrated. I wish the line was a little bit better, but every team got their flaws, man. And if that's our weakest, our roster has still gotten better each year. I go back and look at 23, 22, 21. Each year, it's still, even if it's by an inch, it's gotten better. So Kyle's got it mastered, man. I mean, the Niners are in a great way. We've come up short. We're all still paying attention. He's got it locked in. Hopefully, but I do believe if he breaks through, I think we're going to get a few. If he breaks through.
But I'll say this though, real quick. This is a question for y'all though. Is it just me, or do I feel like I get it, like the trickery in the Super Bowl and he had that little trick play, but I feel like going back to when Jimmy was quarterback, I felt like Kyle Shanahan was way more creative with the offense. Now, he had to be in order to make Jimmy Garoppolo work, but I felt like the offense was more creative, and Kyle Shanahan, I would say, was more in his bag with Jimmy Garoppolo. Not necessarily Jimmy being the better quarterback, but I feel like he would design things where you're like, okay, this is offensive genius, next level, scheming guys open, doing certain things. Where I feel like with Brock Purdy, I feel like even in the Super Bowl, like the play calling was whatever, and we know that. But even throughout the season, I felt like the play calling was just, it wasn't what I've seen from Kyle Shanahan when Kyle Shanahan's at his best. And I don't know if that's because he trusts Brock to go out and make more plays, but I feel like the offense has kind of been Like, I don't feel like it's been, not to say it's bad, right? Because there's offenses in the league that are like atrocious, but it's not what I've seen from Kyle Shanahan when he's been at his best, or dare I say, when he had Jimmy G at quarterback.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I think they made making Brandon Ayuk more of a focal point, and having a quarterback that can do that, kind of takes away maybe a little bit of the razzle dazzle. Like you were saying, hey, they kind of had to do some of those things with a Jimmy Garoppolo. You get a little bit more traditional with a guy who can anticipate and sling it and not get jittery and make all his reads. And then all of a sudden, like the wide receivers say, sometimes, hey, I was the 5th read. Now I didn't even know it was coming. I'll look up. I got to, put the Jets on, so it's a little different. It's a different flavor, but way better.
Speaking of Jets, hey, the Niners added a speedy wide receiver. We kind of talked about him earlier, but anyone else had anything to add on Mr. Jacob Cohen?
Hey, I do want to say on Garendo, that I don't think Kyle thinks Mason is that good, man. I think it's a lot of our fans. I think he kind of outplayed being an undrafted, free agent, but it's not the fit. You know what I'm saying? I think he's really good. I think he should be utilized. But Kyle is like, if you can't do it all, like, I'm not going to admit.
I don't know who he likes other than CMC. I mean,
I mean,
no idea.
Elijah can't stay healthy. Mason,
right?
They won't put him on the field because
they don't put him on. Unless special teams.
It's almost giving it away because he's going to run it or something that he can't catch or whatever the issue is with catching the ball. But Garendo seems to be able to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I think he, like Baller was saying, he had some of the highest testing I think ever. I think it was like, wasn't it 9.99? I think it was like to the roof, like all his testings and measurables and stuff. So who knows? We'll see.
Oh yeah, Garendo's an insane athlete. Yeah, he jumped out of the gym. He ran insane for his size.
He looked like McCaffrey to me. I don't know about y'all, but I don't see McCaffrey being the shiftiest. I think he's more that one cut, two cuts. I know he does got some. I know he could hurdle people, but it feels like McCaffrey gets up north. I don't see him going a lot of east west. So it reminded me of McCaffrey a little bit. I know it's kind of. I'm not saying he will be McCaffrey. He is, but watching him run, I was like, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's what Turner wants. He just wants you to, stick that foot in the ground, cut up field. That's what Turner wants. So, so, hey, anyone else have anything to add on Mr. Cohen, or did we pretty much already talk about?
I know we hit on him. I'll just kind of sum up my thoughts because I did like the pick. He was, there were a few little small 5'8", 5'9" receivers, and Jacob Cowing was the best one out of the bunch. And I think it's a good receiver to have for Brock. I think he's a guy who Brock could have success with, him and Pearsall, because they're both kind of shifty slot receivers. But that type of receiver, quick, give him the option route. Purdy's accurate. He's going to put it on the money. It's going to be an 8-yard completion.
That's what this offense needs. That's what it needs.
I agree. I like the pick. I like the player. Very productive. Top 10 all time in D1 receptions and receiving yards.
Wow.
Right. But like incredible. A pick like this is where, like I said earlier on in the show, where I felt like this was one of the Niners. This was my favorite draft, but I feel like this is one of the Niners' better drafts. Even though they do draft late round gems, there was always, I feel like, every draft, like I said, where you could be like, that was kind of questionable, Kyle and John. Like, why would we go out and draft 2 running backs? Or, like, why would he draft a kicker in the 3rd round? But, like, the Cohen pick, I love the Cohen pick. So, same thing with the Dominic Puni pick. Same thing with the Renardo Green pick. Like, for the most part, every pick in the draft, I understood, for the most part, the thought process. And I also liked the pick and the upside that it brought to the 49ers. Whereas years in the past, like, yes, there was some studs that we got, like unknown studs like Kittle and Warner and things like that and Greenlaw, but there was always like certain picks where you'd be like, did we really need, Ty Davis Price? Yeah, head scratchers, exactly. But in this draft, I don't even think there was a head scratcher besides Ricky Pearsall, which was your 1st round pick. And for your 1st round pick to be the most, not necessarily head scratching, but for your 1st round pick to be the most surprising, I would say that's still a good thing because he's still a 1st rounder. So for the most part, like I love the Cohen pick. Speed guy, has experience. Yeah, I like the pick.
First word that came out of my mouth when we picked Ricky was "wow," kind of thinking like, I thought it was something about 2nd round. Wow, and then that was it.
See, Twitter did me dirty, man. They said Cooper to Gene. I was lit. I was ready to go.
Dude, I had the tweet.
I saw the tweet, and I was like, oh my goodness, ballers about to lose his mind. I was like, nah.
Dude, I had the quote tweet locked in, and all I put was nailed it. I was getting ready to put on Baller, like Baller called it, man. I was like, I was getting ready to do my
Hey, you guys surprised Jay Rice's kid lasted so long?
Very surprised.
He was drafted 6th round, Chargers. Go Chargers.
No, he was drafted 7th. He was like, that's a 255 or something. He was drafted 7th.
That's the next Brock Purdy right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Not just because he's Rice's kid, but he looked good. I liked what I saw from him at USC. The route running. He's got a thick frame. He's got a big build. But he still runs polished routes, and he doesn't drop the ball. Like I think he had 2 drops all year, man.
I need you guys to put yourselves in Brendan Rice's shoes for a second, real quick. If you're Brendan Rice, do you want to get drafted by the 49ers? Like, is that what you'd want? I say hell no.
It depends I think it
no.
depends. It depends what I think about my dad and like if I grew up rooting for the Niners, I don't know.
But let's be real, Kels. Let's be real. Regardless of whether you root for the Niners or not, the level of expectation if you ended up getting drafted by the 49ers and your dad is freaking Jerry Rice, like you can't live up to those expectations. Like you just can't. Like no matter how well you play, no matter how many Pro Bowls you make, even if you end up
But does the team decide? But won't he still kind of always have that? Like
no, but I don't think it'd be as much.
It wouldn't be as much. Let's put it like this, Ball. Let's put it like this, Kelts. If he got drafted to the Chargers and he ends up being the greatest Chargers receiver of all time, that's still something. But on the Niners, no matter how well he does, you can still name. I would say Jerry Rice, T.O. Right? There's still a bunch like other guys that you would always either say are better. And in terms of Jerry Rice, like that standard and that level, like. You can't reach on this team, no matter what receiver you are, whether you're Brendan Rice or Ayuk or whoever. Like that level and standard.
You definitely want to create your own path. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like, you know, I mean, it's kind of hard to really think about being Jerry Rice's son in the moment. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest, hey man, no sympathy. I grew up without a dad, you know, so I really don't know what that looks like. Kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, would I not? Shit, I don't freaking know. I ain't never.
You like hell yeah.
I ain't never thought about that one. Jerry Rice, hell yeah. I want to be just like him. I want to be on the
Niners.
Just
that you always live in his shadow. You like everywhere you go, you always be compared to him. That would be it'd be like Steph Curry's son getting drafted by the Warriors. It'd be like, you'll never be able to live up.
It's like, could you imagine though if he didn't beat out Chris Conley or something, and the Niners were like, "Yeah, bro, you might have to go to the practice squad."
But that's the thing, Kels. It's a lose-lose situation for the
49ers did that to Jerry Rice's son. They had to just be like, "Yeah, we got to waive you, man." You know,
Kels, it's a lose-lose situation for the poor guy who got drafted in the Niners. Like he could have a 2-touchdown game, 100 yards in the playoffs, and they'll be like, "But Jerry had 3." Like that's like it's like you can't win. You just can't win.
Never win. Hey, real quick, we picked up another interior offensive lineman, Jarrett Kingston. He played left guard and tackle at college at SC. He has 32-inch arms, so that's of course too short to play tackle in the NFL. The scouts say that he fits best in zone heavy schemes. I see what you're doing there, Kyle. I see what you're doing. Did anyone else watch any tape? I didn't watch tape on him, but did anyone see anything that said, hey, yeah, he could be a Niner. He could definitely make a push to get on the starting offensive line this season?
No tape. Just a quick cut up of some highlights. What I will say, he's agile. He can move, and I think that's why they say he's a zone fit, because he can kind of when the line gets moving to try to wall someone off, he can do that. We'll see. 6th-round pick.
And offensive linemen, they have an athleticism score. I think this was done on the NFL website, and he ranked 3rd out of all the offensive linemen. So, I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, he's quick. He's quick. He can go up to the 2nd level, get that linebacker. So, hey, let's see what he does. I like this last pick. Tatum Bethune, linebacker at SFU. He's another 5-year college guy. 339 career tackles, 178 of those are solo. He played 54 games. Like he's ready to play. The only thing is the brother ran a 4.75 in the 40. Like that's not going to cut it as a linebacker in the NFL. So maybe he plays faster than that time. I think he does. I mean, because he's got all those tackles, right? So he's got to be fast, right? I mean, he has all
that Florida State, man. There was a lot of talent on that Florida State defense, and when you're watching it, whether it was the D line or the secondary, just a lot of talent all over that field. But yeah, this kid Bethune, he was flying around making plays. Like he's just the kind of linebacker they want. Just quick, no hesitation, get after it. Full throttle. Like that's Bethune. That being said, I think I prefer a D Winters over him. I think I prefer a Jalen Graham over him. So I don't
Yeah.
You know,
So it sounds like you're
maybe a
saying
practice squad
camp
guy.
body. That's what it sounds like. Camp body?
Camp body, maybe practice squad.
Maybe practice squad. Okay. What
Hey,
say you?
hell of a name. I mean, Tatum Bethune. I mean, that's a pretty damn good name. Hey, we never know, man. It's like, man, sometimes I see 7th round, I think Brock Purdy, and it's a joke and this and that, but you just never know in this league. A lot of times it comes down to opportunity, man. Like it just truly does. And we'll see if he can beat somebody out, and yeah, hell of a name. Hey,
I feel like now that
we got 2 Florida State guys, so I mean, we might have more too. So that was kind of cool. I ain't gonna lie. When I seen how that was both, I was like, "That's what's up." Like when you go into something together and they're probably homies, and you get drafted by the same squad. That's got to feel pretty.
That's
cool.
dope. Man, that's dope.
Real talk.
Kelsey, I feel like now that we have Brock Purdy, every 7th rounder for like the rest of eternity will be like, but he could be the next Brock Purdy. He could be. You never know.
Hey, Owen's son. Oh, we picked up undrafted Owen's son. We got one of the bloodlines. Next Purdy.
See, I feel like that's easier of an expectation. Like that's easier to live up to, even though T.O. is a dog like on the field, but like especially with the Niners, as long as you stay your role, don't be calling out any quarterbacks. Like you do what you're supposed to do. I feel like, even though it'd still be hard, like T.O. is a GOAT, but
the Niners gave T.O.'s kid a chance, right? They're bringing him in, obviously. They signed him undrafted. But I feel like if he doesn't make this squad, T.O.'s going to be hot. T.O.'s going to be tweeting. He's going to be pissed. Oh, man, Niners did my kid dirty.
Is it? Can I fact check something with y'all?
It's exactly what Kyle Shanahan wants.
Can I fact check something with y'all? I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a story that T.O. called Jeff Garcia gay or something. Like, I don't know if that's a true story or not. But
I think so. He said, if it looked like a duck, quack like a duck. I think that's what he said, something like that.
Walk like a duck.
Yeah, I remember that. That was
yeah,
I remember that.
That was like probably 2000, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
But real quick, I know Baller, you said you had to go, but I got 2 questions for you, and we can do this rapid fire.
Yes.
Real quick, Jamal Adams, any thoughts on the Niners being interested in the safety Jamal Adams, former All-Pro player with the Jets? He didn't really live up to expectations with the Seahawks. He's battled injuries. What say you? Jamal Adams, 1-year deal, maybe vet men. Who's in?
Oh, a vet man. I'm in. I'm in on Jamal Adams. I mean, he's a player who there's a role for him. Whether is it a starting safety? Yeah, it could be if you want to play him in the box. Like Jamal Adams needs to be around the line of scrimmage. He's really good at blitzing. I don't want him in coverage too much. I don't want to put him on a tight end. I don't want to put him on a slot receiver for damn sure. But Jamal Adams, vet min, like he's been productive in his NFL career. I don't think he's going to want to sign for that low. I think he's going to hold out for somebody maybe to get dinged up somewhere and someone will pay him a little more than that.
And I'd imagine he'd want a starting position and guaranteed that. And I don't think he'll get that guarantee.
No. That being said, if you could bring him in as like a hybrid linebacker, like kind of that third linebacker / safety role, like there's a way you could make it work with Jamal Adams, but I don't think he's willing to take the money that I would offer.
Yeah. Kelts, I mean, what say you?
I used to like Adams, and it's just like today, like, nah, I wouldn't. I just don't want anybody. I don't want there to be any repeats of Oliver of like, oh, you got burnt. I just don't want anybody. I don't want anybody that could get burnt, man. And I know there could be a role, but I would like that. It's not like my brain's like, maybe as a third linebacker. I just don't want to get burnt, bro. That's my thing. I used to really like him though. But go ahead.
I mean, in a perfect scenario, in a dream world, which we don't live in, but obviously you would love to. You could see a place for Jamal Adams on this team. But there's my 3 cons with Jamal Adams is, number 1, he's a character. Like I feel like if there's one team that can absorb his personality, it is this Niners locker room. But do I really want to absorb, like a locker room cancer for a guy that isn't even guaranteed to be a starter on this team? Or, the only time I'm willing to do that is if you're like a star, right? But if you're not, and you're not, that guy that can make a huge impact, do I really want to take on that personality? 2, he's not going to accept what the Niners would ever make an offer to him unless he comes on like a vet minimum, which like if the Niners do end up signing him on a vet minimum, I wouldn't mind. But I mean, most likely he would never accept those terms or, do that deal. But his coverage ain't that good, man. He just doesn't, his coverage skills are lacking. Like you said, Kels, I just don't want to see, get burned by putting Jamal Adams out there. I would much rather play a guy and give an opportunity to a guy like, Malik Mustafa or, Jair Brown or one of those guys, or even like our linebacker. If you're bringing him to play hybrid linebacker, like as much as it would be an interesting idea, like I'm cool with just testing out D winners and giving D winners an opportunity. You signed Devondre Campbell in the offseason. Like I expect him to play that role while Greenlaw's out. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting idea. It's, but yeah, it's just not worth it for me. I don't think he would accept the terms of what the Niners would hypothetically ever offer him, and he's a character in the locker room that I don't know if the Niners necessarily want to bring in, especially if he ain't making that huge of an impact.
It's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah,
we got to talk about real quick the Falcons. Whew. They gave Captain Kirk 4 years, $180 zillion. And then they went and drafted Penix, the shocker of the draft. I would love to know you guys' thoughts on that. Are you for or against that move? Knowing what we know about Captain Kirk and his inability to really win in the postseason, I don't think he's won. I think he won one postseason game with the Vikings. I think one. I think it might have been a wild card game. But other than that,
against the Saints, who always have playoff struggles every year.
So he's got one. But you can't trust him in prime time. He's going to keep you relevant, but I don't think he's really going to get you over the top. But so were you guys for or against that pick by the Falcons? I would love to hear your thoughts. Oh, Kels, you on mute.
Anytime I seen a pick like that, I was like, oh man, we're one step closer to whoever falls. We're one step closer. Hey, just keep on making them picks, man. That's all I was feeling. But I was just kind of like, how many years did they sign? I started just going through.
Well, it's only
how
a
many
4-year
years
deal.
Did they sign Cousin? It was like, damn, he's gonna be there for 2 years. And Michael Penn, I don't know.
It's a 4-year deal, but we know the first 2 years he's most likely going to be there. But the third year they can cut bait.
They got
the cap hit is minimal. You spread it out over 2 years. I don't think they're going to give him more than 2 years. If Cousins,
that's what I think. 2 years.
I don't think so. If he doesn't win, they need to go to the NFC Conference Championship game for me to keep Cousins the rest of the 2 years of that contract for me. Because he ain't shown me much. I wouldn't have signed him in the beginning, but I just don't think he's shown me much. Like he'll keep you relevant, but maybe you could have got a cheaper quarterback.
It's crazy when you really go look at Kirk Cousins' stats. I mean, shit.
He puts up numbers.
If the primetime thing wasn't there and a few playoff games went a different way, we'd be looking at it, dude, like he was, closer to elite.
He's good. He's tough. That was an excellent show on Netflix about him and the other quarterback.
He carved us up. Hey, him and Burrows last year. Shoot.
Hey, Baller, what's your thoughts on it? Hit it real quick, and then
I hated the pick. I hate this philosophy. I hated it when the Packers did it with Aaron Rodgers. When you have a quarterback, and Kirk Cousins isn't Aaron Rodgers, but when you have a quarterback who's, in my opinion, a top 12 quarterback, you went out, you just paid him. You want to add someone to that roster that's going to help you win now. Like drafting the backup quarterback is not going to help. And what stinks is that actually I like Penix, but I just hate the situation. You have a quarterback, you're obviously going for it. When you pay a veteran quarterback like that big money, I think Kirk, I know people like to beat up on Kirk. I'm higher on Kirk than the folks on Twitter, I'll say. I think he's a top 12 guy. Yeah, so I didn't like the move.
Can he be top 12 without much playoff success? Like, are you saying? I mean, I agree. He puts up numbers, but
it matters. It matters about the rest of the team too, though.
Yeah.
Right. Like it matters what the defense is doing. It matters, how many weapons you got. Like who in Washington what he had Terry McLaurin. Like, I mean, he didn't have a plethora of weapons like Kirk.
I mean, he did have Justin Jefferson. I mean,
and why in Minnesota he had
rightfully
Jefferson.
So. That's why Justin Jefferson's the top receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, I dig it. I don't like the pick, but I can understand why they did it, because they're not giving Captain Kirk is not going to play 4 years in Atlanta unless he goes to the NFC Championship game. That's how it should be. I don't like it, but I could see why. He can wait for 2 years. He can learn behind Captain Kirk. I know you're not supposed to do that in these times, but Jordan Love did it. He sat behind Rodgers, I think, for what, 2 seasons?
Three, right?
Three?
Two, yeah.
So it has been done before. Would I have liked them to get a guy who could help them right now? Absolutely.
Adunze was right there. Rome Adunze was right there.
Yeah.
No, my issue with the pick is, first off, I wouldn't have signed Kirk anyways. And like, I remember people were like, "Oh, the Vikings should re-sign Kirk Cousins," and I'm like, "No, they shouldn't, because they're not winning that division. And if you have Kirk Cousins on his team and you sign him, he's still the 4th best quarterback in that division. If the Bears ended up drafting Caleb Williams, which they ended up doing, so it wouldn't have made sense for the Vikings, which I think it was smart by the Vikings to not end up bringing back Kirk Cousins. But for the Falcons, you play in a crap division. And like one of my uncles is a Falcons fan, and I remember telling him, and I'm like, if y'all just end up drafting a quarterback, like, and I gave him Penix, I literally said, if y'all end up drafting a guy like Penix, and this is like a month before the draft, I could still see you guys being good enough to win that division. Like, that division is a crapshoot. It's not that great. It's like you could win that division with a Michael Penix or with a rookie quarterback, not necessarily a second rounder, third rounder, but one of those like top 5 guys. I think they could have still done it. With Kirk, sure, you have a better guarantee at winning the division, but you're gonna get bounced in the first round of the playoffs either way, right? Like, it don't make a difference whether you have Kirk Cousins or not. The difference is you're just paying a guy $100 million, whereas if you could have a Michael Penix that you could still have an opportunity to make the playoffs, it could bounce in the first round, but he's not as expensive. So the whole Kirk Cousins signing, I thought, was stupid. And he was talking about the GM was talking about the Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers is an multiple time MVP winner and is a future Hall of Famer. And that team with Aaron Rodgers was in Super Bowl contention, and they were like the number 1 seed for like 2 years in a row. Kirk Cousins is none of that. You will literally, yes, you might make the playoffs, and then you are getting bounced in the first round. You're not a legit contender with Kirk Cousins on your team. So yes, you make Michael Penix sit a couple of years, and he's already like 24 years old. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I get it. They think they got their guy, but in all honesty, you could probably have made the playoffs with Michael Penix Jr. and gotten bounced in the first round, but it would have been much cheaper than doing it where Kirk Cousins. Like, Kirk Cousins is not Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe Kirk Cousins will elevate the Falcons franchise. I mean, I could see why a GM would want to sign him, because at least, I mean, they haven't gotten really the quarterback position right since Matt Ryan has left. So I'm sure they're desperate, clearly, to pay Kirk Cousins that.
But Jay, I think part of that is Arthur Smith, who, like, at least as a fantasy manager, like, Bijan, where was Bijan at? Where was Kyle Pitts at? Where was Drake London at? Like, where was all those guys at? Arthur Smith didn't utilize any of those guys, right?
He would say Ritter was my quarterback. That's probably what he would say.
But even before Ritter was your quarterback, I think they had a year of Matt Ryan and they still didn't do anything. And you had Kyle Pitts and you didn't have Bijan, but like, I mean, Arthur Smith didn't utilize his guys.
Ryan hasn't really been the same since.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, that's fair argument, but you have no excuse for Bijan then. Like, Bijan's a running back. He doesn't need Matt Ryan or Desmond Ridder throwing the ball, yet you still didn't utilize him.
I'm gonna let you guys carry it home. I got to jump. I think I shared with you guys I was expecting one more. The Baller household has grown. It's time for Baller.
Congratulations.
To feed the bottle. It's about, I got to heat one up.
Absolutely.
Feed it to the little munchkin.
We'll
so,
see you next time, Baller.
I'm going to jump. I'm going to leave you with this one. We didn't hit on it, but the worst draft, or the draft that I liked the least, there were 2, and it was mostly because the first round picks. It was the Cowboys. I didn't like Tyler Guyton. I did like, they drafted Nealon in the second round. I like Marshawn Nealon, but I don't like Guyton. Cowboys wasted a pick with him. I'm just not a fan. I don't think he brings it. The other one was the Packers. So 2 NFC teams. They drafted Jordan Morgan in round 1. Jordan Morgan, the guy, he was getting bullied by some Pac-12 players. So I'm worried about him at the next level, So those were 2 of my losers. But hey, fellas, love talking ball with you. I'll let you guys carry the rest of this one out.
Absolutely. I'll let you later. All right.
Later.
Cool. You guys have any more you wanted to discuss about the draft or any other things you want to get out your chest?
I think the Raiders, I would say the Raiders, at least those first 2 picks in Jackson Powers Johnson and Brock Bowers. I know people were talking about they drafted as tight end last year, but I mean, when you got a guy like Brock Bowers sitting there at 13, I know teams like the Rams are trying to trade up and trying to get Brock Bowers in the top 10. So there were multiple teams that were trying to trade up for him. So, I mean, I think the Raiders with those first 2 picks, even though they didn't address quarterback, I think Brock Bowers and Jackson Power Johnson was 2 great picks by the Raiders.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you guys this. So free agency is done, or, that period in the draft. Are the 49ers better right now than last year at this time?
I'll be right back.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah, look at that. He ducked the question. He was like, I gotta go.
He was like, I'm out of here. I'll take it off, man. I mean, I definitely think they're better. I wish I had the thing right in front of me, but just even looking at Green and Isaac, I'm gonna just call him Isaac, because that's his first name. But the nickel corner that we got from the Saints, just looking at that, man, that's a major. I think that could be a major improvement. We didn't really do anything on offense. We didn't really. I don't think we lost anybody on offense. We gained Purcell and Cowing and Puni, and it's like, who did we lose on offense? I don't think.
Who did we lose on offense?
I don't think we lost anybody except for a reserve. I want to say a reserve offensive lineman, but on defense, there was a lot of turnaround. But I think there could be a lot of pluses, especially the availability of Collins compared to Armstead. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at that. I think Floyd's going to be an upgrade over Farrell. We'll see if Drake Jackson's time is done. But heading into last year, I mean, it was Drake Jackson was our starter. You know what I'm saying? It was it Fowles? Was it Fowles, or who was our third linebacker? I think it could have been. We opened it up with Oren Burks. Now I'm pretty sure. Now we got Campbell. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it's better. I feel like the team has gotten better, even if it's by an inch. And that's how I feel.
I don't know really, Kels, because I feel like I would say the one positive is that you have Brock Purdy, who gets a full offseason to work out and to get better. Because obviously last offseason it was just simply rehab. So from that standpoint, having a Purdy who's going to come back hopefully much better and much healthier, I think is definitely a plus. But at the same time, like, I don't know really how much better this roster has gone in terms of your offensive line is pretty much the same. Your defensive line, I would say from the beginning of last year, when you didn't have Chase Young, I would say it was better because you have Floyd now on this defensive line. So I think that's definitely a plus. But you look at Chase Young, who had upside compared to Floyd. Floyd is more consistent, but Chase Young was younger and more talented. But talent necessarily doesn't equal production. But defensive line, from the beginning of last year, I would say it was better. Offensive line, same. Receivers, same. Corners, the same, unless, corner DBs, I would say, are the same. Now, I would say the Niners have more options going into this year because you have more guys in Ricky Pearsall. You have, the guy's slipping, the 4th rounder that we drafted, the receiver.
Cowell.
But I would, what did you say?
Cowell?
Yeah, Cowell, right? Like Cowell, You have Puni. So I would say we have more options going into this year, especially with the rookies. I feel like there are guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they came in and played meaningful snaps for this team if needed. So I would say the Niners definitely have more options. Like I could see a Renardo Green coming in and starting, or even playing over an Ambry Thomas or one of those guys if they struggle, and moving Deommodore Lenoir inside permanently and playing him in the slot. I like even a Ricky Pearsall. You have an option, right? You have another option, or a Cowell who has the speed. So I would say you have more options this year than you did last year. But at the same time, while I do say that, Kyle Shanahan also doesn't seem to be playing his rookies. He doesn't do that. It takes a lot, like we said, for him to go out and, stride a rookie, nonetheless play a rookie, right? So, I mean, even with those options, which a lot of those are rookies, will Kyle Shanahan trust those guys enough outside of Pearsall, who I think is guaranteed to play? Outside of Pearsall, do any of the other guys, even though I think they can contribute, will Kyle Shanahan trust them enough to contribute? So, I mean, I would say they have more options, but like I said, it's just, will Kyle Shanahan trust them enough to go out there and give them an opportunity to show what they got and contribute to this team?
Hey, well said. It's a tough question because we've had some losses, Armstead, Chase Young, just to name a few. We've added some pieces, especially in the defensive free agency area. I mean, Brock Purdy, I know you guys have seen him working out. He looks rocked. He just got married. Purdy will have a full off-season training program. He'll be healthy. It's another year in the system, so he should be better. I think the offensive line is basically the same. Kittle's going to be another year older. We don't know what's really behind him. I think the receiver room has improved for sure. Like Amina mentioned, we have more options. Got more options in the secondary as well. Linebackers kind of a question mark. Got some young guys behind the three vets. And I think defensively, our defensive line, I think it's better. I think we have more depth. And Armstead was good while he was here. Wasn't always super consistent, but I think we basically got rid of him and got three guys that should be able to replicate his production. So I'm gonna say we're slightly better. I'm gonna say we're a little bit better.
That's how I feel. I feel like there's no major pluses.
No,
but I feel like Ricky could be better than Ray. Like
right.
Collins
should be. Yeah.
Collins could be better than Armstead. I know that sounds like crazy, but it really isn't.
Leonard Floyd should be better
than Farrell. Green should be better than Oliver. Campbell.
I mean,
Campbell
Collins,
hold on. Campbell should be
ahead.
better than Burks. Brown and Huff together, I believe, should be better than when Gibson was in there. Hopefully Huff comes back, and then you kind of just throw Puni in the mix. And I mean, when I'm looking at the whole roster right now, it's kind of like it feels like those were all trades. You know what I'm saying? And they might be minor, ticks up. Hopefully they're massive. Hopefully there's no downgrades. Just stuff happens. But hey, a minor tick up, hey, that's better. I know we didn't get worse. You know what I'm saying? So it feels like we kind of sharpened up, especially I like on the man-to-man, on defense and offense with the cornerback and the wide receiver. I love that part. And with the running back, I love getting that speed. It's like everybody we brought in, it's like one of these speed guys got to hit. And then that right there gives you a different element. It opens it up a little bit more for Ayuk and Debo and anybody else, so yeah, man, I think we got better. Hopefully it has a better result next year, man. Because I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm still just kind of like bullshit. I still am, man. But that's why I had to take a step back, get my emotions up out of it, man, and come back correct. So
but Kels, I will say though, even if you could, make the argument that we got a little bit better, the other teams in the division, the other teams in the conference have gotten a whole lot better, right? Like the Rams, you look at the Rams, improve their offensive line. They ended up drafting Verse and then Brandon Fisk, right, to improve that defense. Obviously, Aaron Donald retiring is huge, but the Rams definitely got better. Like the Rams, you look at the Rams for the team, for example, like they understand to capitalize on the last couple of years of Stafford, the best chance is to, keep Stafford healthy, protect, to protect him and, invest in that offensive line, which he ended up doing. The Eagles ended up getting, even though I think Nick Sirianni sucks as a head coach, you got Kellen Moore, who's a good coordinator, and Vic Fangio, who's an experienced coordinator. So the Eagles are going to be better. Like you can't get worse than what they did, and they addressed their cornerback position in the draft. So the Eagles are going to be better. The only team that I don't really give respectfully a shit about going into next year is the Cowboys. Like, I don't think the Cowboys. I'm not tripping about the Cowboys.
Ooh,
They got Zeke the Freak back in the building, man.
Oh my goodness, shiver me timbers. Like, I don't give a crap about the Cowboys. Like, I ain't tripping off the Cowboys. But the Rams, I would say the Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, who almost beat us last year, the Lions, like, it's going to be tough this year. Like, it's going to be tough. Going into last year, besides the Eagles and the Lions, I was like, you know what, we good at this year. Like, and even then, the Eagles struggled and they collapsed into just the Lions. Going into next year, you have the Rams, if Matthew Stafford is healthy, who also get Cooper Kupp coming back who's healthy, like the Rams, the Packers, the Lions, the Eagles. Like, there's 4 teams that I'm like, all right, it could be a problem for the Niners. And even if they do beat them in the regular season, you got to see those teams in the playoffs. Like, it's not going to be easy for the 49ers. Not to mention, you got to stay healthy, and your key guys have to stay healthy the whole year. So, I don't, like, as much as I'm hoping we make it back to the Super Bowl, and I still believe in this team, it definitely ain't going to be as easy as it was last year. Because I feel like last year it was just the Lions that you had to go through. This year it ain't that simple. So, it definitely is going to be a much harder road for the 49ers.
Absolutely. You guys have any closing thoughts on the draft? Let the people know.
Yeah, I think that's about it for me. I mean, I think we kind of covered. I don't know if there's any other news or any updates or.
Hey,
I think everything's good. No, go ahead, bro.
Real quick, as Warriors fans, how'd y'all feel about Clay's like 0-for-10 performance? Or were y'all like, get Clay out the game, Clay sucks? Or were y'all like, you know, Clay still gave us a lot throughout the championship years? Like, how'd y'all feel about that?
I can't even remember how much I watched it, and I keep going back and forth on how much I want to see all 3 of them retire together. Because at first I was like dead set. I was like, I don't care how it ends. I think that would be hella cool. But now it's just kind of
that ain't gonna come to fruition.
You could keep them together, man, as long as they bring someone else, man. That's all I'm looking at. It's just like it is what it is. This year was weird. Last year was more weird. This year wasn't as weird. You know, Draymond's doing his stuff, so that's kind of frustrating. But hey, it's gonna come to an end, man. It always does. You know what I'm saying? It was an amazing run. I got to witness every single piece of it, beginning to freaking end. Not everybody gets that, man. It was incredible. I enjoyed it. So yeah, man.
Hey, real quick,
Curry still got time though. Hey, I do want to say Curry will get one more. I don't know about the other 2.
Well, it's not. You're also pounding the table for him to come to the Lakers and join LeBron and AD to get another one. I knew you were on that.
He is gonna come back home. He's like, damn, man, we would have won like 7. You know, we would have pulled the.
But LeBron. It was too easy. It was too easy.
So LeBron and I got 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. But
I don't think he's gonna play with Draymond though. Again, I don't.
No, he's not playing with Draymond. But I don't even know if Draymond's gonna be back. I think he has a better chance over Clay to be back on that team next year. But
oh yeah, I think so, Dre. And it's kind of crazy because you see him do some of his stuff, and it's like, that's got to be the last straw. Yeah. But it's like I could see, because of the value of when I see Dre playing like to his top level, which I mean, yeah, he misses some layups sometimes, but when he's really rolling, he still makes a big difference in the game, in my opinion. Klay Thompson doesn't have that no more. Yeah, if he gets hot for a game or 2, that's cool, but give me the defense, give me and the way he runs the offense as well. He's basically our either first or second point guard, Draymond. So we'll see how it pans out. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to keep it together, though.
Yeah, but I will say, though, like in terms of Clay, I feel like if you're Clay, you already got the rings, right? So like at this point, you might as well, if a team's offering you money and they're going to give you more money, I wouldn't be surprised if Clay went out. Even though he loves this squad, like he got the rings, he got the championships, go out and get as much money late in your career as you want. But I will say though, I watched The Last Dance, and the thing, like, The Last Dance, obviously that Bulls dynasty got ruined because of Jerry Reinsdorf and, the GM, and he kind of broke that team apart. I will say not a Warriors fan, but at least y'all got to see it play out. Like, y'all got to see it play out, and the team didn't, end up getting broken up off the court. It was like, it was kind of on the court where, they didn't end up getting it done. Now, I would still maybe give them another year to figure it out. Like maybe, like I would definitely be intrigued by the idea of giving the Warriors that, that 3, but you have to add someone else. You got to give Curry some help. I would say get rid of Wiggins and, get Curry someone else, but give it maybe 1 year to see it play out. But it's definitely cool that this dynasty isn't getting broken up off the court, where they let it play out and see how it goes for the most part. Even if it does end up getting split this year, like y'all let it play out, whereas like that Bulls dynasty got cut short. Not cut short, but that got broken up because of, off the court issues.
Yeah, it wasn't natural. It wasn't just natural. It wasn't just they got old and they gave it their all and ended. Yeah. One thing I will say, it did frustrate me that it did feel like the Warriors finally caught a groove when Klay went to the bench. And then for whatever reason, when playoff time came, and I know there was a few factors, but it was kind of like, it felt like they finally it was like there was a good couple week period where I was like, man, this is Warrior basketball again. I ain't seen this in a year and a half. Like, that's Warrior basketball. The ball's just moving. And and you could tell when it's just flowing. When it's flowing like fluid, it just feels different. It looks different. And then it's like, I think Kuminga missed a few games, which was odd because he wasn't missing no games. And then they experimented a few other lineups, and it's like, damn, man, y'all was rolling, and something had to happen. Something had to, just kind of intervene. But I hope they run it back, even though I was hella frustrated this year, hella times. I was like, Dre got to go. Klay got to go. It's done. Freaking, I've had enough of this crap. But, I would like to see them stick together.
Hey, real quick.
As long as Dre stop with his stuff, though. Some of
if they decide to repeat it next year and bring the team back, and if it doesn't work out, Steph can always come to the Lakers, join LeBron and AD, get that next chip. They can both win the chips together. It's okay. It can happen. We're always open to the idea.
Are the Niners still the team to beat in the NFC West?
Are the Niners still yeah.
I would say yes.
I would say if you are the king if you are the king, someone got to dethrone you first. So yes,
exactly.
I didn't want to turn it into like a battle or something, but when the meme was saying the Lions could be a problem, the problems, I was like, man, we are the mother effing problem. The Niners are you got to come see the Niners. Yep. Like, yeah, and you know how we ride on the road. It might be fun if it gets close and there's rivalries again in our division, and if there are 3 teams, kind of really battling it out. But I don't know. I've had a lot of Jimmy G years of struggling to, get by in last games and all that stuff, to where I'm cool with dominating if we can. And I hope we do.
Nah, we definitely the team to beat unless you get we the king of the NFC. Unless you get dethroned, you technically the king. So we're definitely the team to beat.
I mean, unless Zach Wilson just oh no, he's in the AFC. My bad, my bad, baller.
Hey, we appreciate everyone tuning in to the stream tonight. Appreciate all the engagement, and if no one else has anything else to add, the dream, close us out.
How we always end it, even though the Lakers lost tonight, which kind of sucks, but, we always repping, the Lakers, go Lakers. Mark said Steph not going to LA for anything. Like, we've heard the LeBron Steph talks. Like, if he wants to come,
Oh, dang, what happened? My sermon didn't moan. Oh, dang, hold on. That's cold work.
What were you saying, Did you say something?
Great show, everybody. Great show, fellas. How we always end it off with the bang bang Niner gang. So.
We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yo.